Hey guys, in this video I'm gonna show you how to add some entourage using trees. So I just found this image of a tree and I'm gonna go ahead and just select the color range of this, the white background. So I'm gonna select color range highlights, and then I'm gonna go ahead and just click on OK. And I want to select the inverse of this. We can see there's the borders selected, so I'm going to select inverse because I actually want the dark colors, not the highlights. And now I can just go ahead and edit and go to edit copy, and I'll move over to my other drawing and I'll just go to edit paste. So now I have the tree in a layer by itself, layer 1. So I'm going to rename this. Like all my other layers, I'll call this a color tree, or trees, since I'm going to put multiple trees. And I'm going to use the move tool on the top left and just drag this over into a blank area of the landscape. And I'll go to edit, transform, and scale this to make it a larger size. You can see it allows me to grab grips, and if I pull those grips I can scale it. If I hold shift down, then it scales it to proportion. So you want to make sure that you're scaling it to proportion by holding the shift key down. Once I go back to move this, then it'll ask me if I want to apply the transformation. I'll go ahead and apply this and then move it into position. So I want to go ahead and change the color of this, so I'm going to adjust the hue saturation, and if I bring the saturation down, then it gets rid of some of the brightness of the the color, and also make it a little bit lighter so you can see that it's not as distracting in the rendering. So I'll bring the saturation down even more and hit OK. So once I have that set, I'm going to go ahead and make multiple copies of this. So I'm gonna, again with the move tool, if I hold Control Alt down at the same time while I'm moving it, you'll see a double arrow. It's a black and white arrow, and that'll allow me just to start to quickly make multiple copies. I can copy and paste it again, but holding Control Alt down at the same time while I'm holding the move tool allows me to copy these faster. So I'll just go ahead and copy a few of these and space them out. I'm less interested in the actual landscape. It's more just to kind of demonstrate the technique, and in your assignment I would treat it a similar way. It's just to kind of show how you can create a landscape rather than being completely accurate to the existing conditions of the landscape. So you can see it's created a bunch of layers that I can go ahead and select and start to move individually. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue to select each one and move it into position. And I can use my scale tool again to start to create some variation so that all the trees don't look identical like clone copies, but I'll just go ahead and move them and transform, scale with each of these, and again I'll just go ahead and do that to get a bigger range of trees. Every time I go and kind of select the move tool or the select tool, it'll ask me if I want to apply the transformation, and I'll just go ahead and hit yes to that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just do this, pause the video for a second, and continue to do this with all of the other trees and get them into position. So once this is set, now I have this set, I have each tree on a individual layer, and I can select all of these layers that have trees on them and right click, and I'm going to go to merge layers. So this will just collapse everything down back into one single layer, and I'm just going to double click to rename this my colored trees, and that just keeps it a little bit easier to organize and turn these on and off. The next thing I want to do is basically create a shadow on the trees. So I'm going to use the same technique. I'm going to hold Control Alt down and then move them in order to duplicate these. So I have my copy, it's just going to copy all of them at once since they're all on the same layer now, and I'm going to rename this to shadows. So if I use the same tool, I'm just going to, or in this case I'm going to adjust the brightness contrast, and this will allow me to just bring the brightness way down in order to make it dark. So I actually want to move this layer to the back behind the tree layer, so I'm going to grab this and drag the layer and reorganize those so that the shadows are casting in the same direction as the walls, and now when I bring the brightness down you could see that it looks accurate in terms of the light source being on the coming from the upper right part of the page. And I'm going to change the hue and saturation again just to get rid of any color in the shadow so the shadow doesn't have any color. And I can adjust the lightness as well to make that read and kind of match some of the shadows in the plan. So everything is very crisp right now, and the shadows are really crisp, and I'm just gonna apply a filter and blur the shadows a little bit. So I'm gonna go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur while I have my shadow layer selected, and as I increase or decrease the radius you could see that it gets sharpened, and as I increase that, that increases the blur and the number of pixels, and that just gives it a softer shadow that's a little more consistent with the way that I've rendered the floor plan. So I'm gonna just go ahead and set this to an amount of pixels that gives it a little bit of a blurred effect. And once I have that set, I'll just go ahead and hit OK. And I could do the same thing with the tree. The trees are very sharp as well. They almost become a little too realistic looking in the foreground, so I can apply a blur to those as well. And I can change the opacity on both the tree and the shadow in order to make them a little less distracting, so that they're not the focus of the rendering, but they just become more of a background entourage for the landscape. So again, I'll just go ahead and apply the Gaussian blur to the foreground of the trees. Not as much as the shadow, just something to make it a little less distracting. And that's how you create trees and shadows in the landscape.